Welcome to Topical Economics. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our insightful videos. Today's video is about the topic of globalization, free trade, and protection. I'll be walking you through some past paper multiple-choice questions, carefully analyzing each one. Whether you're preparing for exams or just want to strengthen your understanding of economics, this video will help you. Starting with first question. Which action is not performed by a government as part of its international role? A. Building offshore wind farms. B. Imposing tariffs on imports. C. Issuing visas to foreign tourists. D. Providing humanitarian aid to refugees. Reference, 2022 May-June version 3. The correct answer for this question is option A. The action that is not typically performed by a government as part of its international role is building offshore wind farms. Building offshore wind farms is primarily a domestic economic and environmental activity, generally focused on addressing national energy needs, environmental goals, or local job creation. While it may have international implications, such as contributing to global climate efforts, it is not directly an aspect of a government's international role, which typically involves actions like trade policy, diplomacy, humanitarian aid, and border management, e.g., issuing visas, imposing tariffs. The other options, B, C, D, are clearly related to international interactions. Option B, imposing tariffs on imports, is a key element of trade policy. Next, option C, issuing visas to foreign tourists, is a matter of international travel and immigration control. Lastly, option D, providing humanitarian aid to refugees, is a common international responsibility tied to diplomacy and human rights. Moving to second question. The governments of low-income countries often allow foreign multinational companies, MNCs, to mine minerals in their country. Which conflict between benefit and cost might this cause the low-income countries? Reference, 2022 May-June version 1. The correct answer for this question is option B. When low-income countries allow foreign multinational companies, MNCs, to mine minerals, there is a clear conflict between the benefits and costs of such arrangements. One major benefit is the potential for an improved balance of trade, as exporting minerals can increase foreign exchange earnings. Additionally, MNCs often provide training to local workers, which can help build human capital and improve skills. The mining industry also typically creates higher employment, contributing to lower unemployment rates in the host country. Moreover, the presence of MNCs can lead to increased profits, which, although primarily benefiting the MNCs, can generate local economic activity through wages, taxes, and local supply chains. Another potential benefit is efficient production, as MNCs bring advanced technology and management practices, helping to improve productivity. Over time, these factors can contribute to economic growth in the host country. However, there are significant costs associated with allowing MNCs to mine. One of the primary concerns is the loss of a finite resource, as minerals are non-renewable. The extraction of these resources can deplete the country's natural wealth, leaving it with fewer resources for future generations. Furthermore, if the economic gains from mining are not reinvested wisely in sustainable development or infrastructure, the country may face long-term challenges. While MNCs bring expertise, the environmental impact of mining and the potential for resource depletion may limit the benefits in the long run. Thus, while mining can provide immediate economic advantages, the conflict arises when the finite nature of the resources being exploited is not adequately addressed, potentially sacrificing future opportunities for short-term gains. Moving to third question. The U.S. government introduces tariffs on steel imported from China. This increases the price of imported Chinese steel. Whose income would be likely to increase as a direct result? Reference, 2022 May-June version 1. The correct answer for this question is option C. When the U.S. government imposes tariffs on steel imported from China, it increases the price of imported Chinese steel, making it more expensive for U.S. businesses that rely on steel. The effects of the tariff can be broken down as follows. For Chinese steel producers, the income of Chinese steel producers is not likely to increase directly as a result of the tariff. In fact, their income could decrease, as higher prices may lead to a reduction in demand for their steel in the U.S. market, unless they can find alternative markets or absorb the cost increase. However, the primary goal of the tariff is to reduce the amount of Chinese steel being imported, not to benefit Chinese producers. For U.S. government, the income of the U.S. government would likely increase because the tariff is essentially a tax on imported goods. The U.S. government collects revenue from these tariffs based on the value of the steel imported from China. Therefore, it would directly benefit from the increased revenue generated by the tariffs. Moving to the fourth question. A country removes all tariffs on imported goods. What is a benefit of this change to consumers? A. Export prices will fall. B. Import prices will fall. C. Tariff revenue will fall. D. The exchange rate will fall. Reference, 2022 February-March version 2. The correct answer for this question is option B. Import prices will fall. When a country removes all tariffs on imported goods, the cost of importing goods decreases because there are no additional taxes or duties being applied to those imports. This typically leads to lower prices for consumers, as businesses can buy imported goods at a lower cost and pass on the savings to consumers. Analyzing the other options. Option A, export prices will fall, isn't directly related to the removal of tariffs on imports. Tariffs affect the price of imports, not exports. Next, option C, tariff revenue will fall, is true, but it is not a benefit to consumers. The question asks specifically about benefits to consumers. Lastly, option D. The exchange rate will fall. While tariffs can influence exchange rates indirectly, the removal of tariffs doesn't directly cause a fall in exchange rates. Exchange rates are influenced by many factors like interest rates, inflation, and trade balances. Moving to the fifth question. What is a reason for trade protection? A. To reduce a deficit on the current account of the balance of payments. B. To reduce a surplus on the current account of the balance of payments. C. To reduce economic growth. D. To reduce inflation. Reference, 2021 October-November version 3. The correct answer for this question is option A. To reduce a deficit on the current account of the balance of payments. Trade protection measures, such as tariffs, quotas, or subsidies, are often implemented to reduce imports and encourage domestic production. By limiting the inflow of foreign goods, a country can reduce its trade deficit, the gap between imports and exports, thus improving its current account balance. Analyzing the other options. Option B. To reduce a surplus on the current account of the balance of payments. Trade protection is not typically used to reduce a current account surplus. In fact, a surplus indicates that a country is exporting more than it imports, and protectionism would usually be counterproductive in such a case. Next, option C. To reduce economic growth. Trade protection generally aims to support domestic industries, but it can have the opposite effect by reducing competition, increasing prices, and leading to inefficiencies. Economic growth is typically encouraged by more open trade, not protectionism. Lastly, option D. To reduce inflation. While trade protection might, in some cases, reduce inflationary pressures by limiting the import of cheaper goods, thus encouraging domestic production, it can also lead to higher prices for consumers. Tariffs, for example, can increase the cost of imported goods, which can contribute to inflation, not reduce it. Moving to the sixth question. The U.S. imposed tariffs on cars and motorcycles from Germany. What is the effect of these tariffs? A. Decrease in inflation in the U.S. B. Decrease in trade between the U.S. and Germany. C. Increase in profits of car and motorcycle producers from Germany. D. Increase in standards of living in the U.S. and in Germany. Reference, 2021 October-November version 2. The correct answer for this question is option B. Decrease in trade between the U.S. and Germany. When the U.S. imposes tariffs on cars and motorcycles from Germany, the immediate effect is typically a reduction in trade between the two countries. tariffs increase the price of imported goods, making them less competitive compared to domestic products. As a result, U.S. consumers and businesses are less likely to purchase goods from Germany, leading to a decrease in imports from that country. Analyzing the other options. Option A: decrease in inflation in the U.S. Tariffs generally increase inflation rather than decrease it, because they raise the price of imported goods, leading to higher overall prices in the economy. Inflation in the U.S. would likely increase as a result of tariffs on imported cars and motorcycles. Next, option C: increase in profits of car and motorcycle producers from Germany. Tariffs generally reduce profits for foreign producers by making their goods more expensive in the tariff-imposing country. The higher prices caused by tariffs may lead to lower sales, which reduces profits for German producers, not increases them. Lastly, option D: increase in standards of living in the U.S. and in Germany. Tariffs tend to reduce standards of living by increasing the prices of imported goods for consumers. In the U.S., consumers will face higher prices for cars and motorcycles, which can lower their standard of living. For Germany, the effect is also negative, as reduced exports to the U.S. can harm German producers and workers. Moving to the seventh question. Why do some governments limit the operations of multinational companies, MNCs, within their domestic economy? A. MNCs contribute to technological advances. B. MNCs decrease a country's unemployment rate. C. MNCs gain profits, which are transferred out of the country. D. MNCs increase a country's current account surplus. Reference: 2021 October-November, version 1. The correct answer for this question is option C. MNCs gain profits, which are transferred out of the country. Governments may limit the operations of multinational companies, MNCs, in their domestic economy because MNCs often repatriate a significant portion of their profits back to their home countries, rather than reinvesting them locally. This can result in a net outflow of capital, potentially weakening the domestic economy. By limiting MNC activities, governments aim to ensure that more of the profits stay within the country, supporting local businesses, jobs, and investments. Analyzing the other options. Option A: MNCs contribute to technological advances. While it is true that MNCs can bring technological advancements to a country, this is generally seen as a positive impact. Governments are more likely to limit MNCs for other reasons, such as concerns about profit repatriation or market dominance. Next, option B: MNCs decrease a country's unemployment rate. MNCs can create jobs and reduce unemployment in the host country by opening factories, offices, and other operations. While this may be a benefit, it's not typically a reason for limiting MNCs. In fact, governments may even encourage MNCs for the job opportunities they create. Lastly, option D: MNCs increase a country's current account surplus. MNCs may contribute to a current account surplus through exports if they produce goods for international markets. However, this is not a primary reason for limiting MNC operations. Governments are more concerned with other factors like the outflow of profits or the dominance of foreign firms in the domestic market. Moving to the eighth question. A multinational company, MNC, wishes to invest in a low-income country to expand its palm oil production. What is most likely to make this investment possible? A. High cost of clearing forests to increase land for plantations. B. Increased demand for palm oil. C. Shortages of labor in the rural economy. D. The removal of subsidies for palm oil production. Reference: 2021 May-June version 2. The correct answer for this question is option B. Increased demand for palm oil. Increased demand for palm oil would make the investment in a low-income country more attractive to a multinational company, MNC. Higher demand for palm oil would encourage MNCs to expand production in countries where the cost of land and labor is lower, as this would increase potential profits. The MNC would likely invest in expanding palm oil plantations to meet the growing demand for the product. Analyzing the other options. Option A: high cost of clearing forests to increase land for plantations, could actually make the investment less likely. Clearing forests can be expensive, and it may also involve environmental regulations or resistance from local communities and environmental groups. High costs would typically reduce the profitability of the investment, not make it more viable. Next, option C, shortages of labor in the rural economy, could make it more difficult for an MNC to find workers for its palm oil plantations. In fact, MNCs often look for regions with abundant, low-cost labor in order to maximize profits. A labor shortage would increase labor costs and could make the investment less attractive. Lastly, option D, the removal of subsidies for palm oil production, would increase the cost of producing palm oil, making the investment less profitable. MNCs often seek environments where subsidies or other forms of financial support can help lower production costs, so the removal of subsidies would typically discourage investment rather than make it more possible. Moving to the 9th question. Globalization is the process by which domestic firms become involved in international markets. What encourages globalization? A. Controls on foreign exchange. B. Immigration restrictions. C. Increasing tariffs. D. Widespread use of the Internet. Reference, 2021 May-June version 3. The correct answer for this question is option D. Widespread use of the Internet. The widespread use of the Internet is a key factor encouraging globalization because it facilitates communication, trade, and the flow of information across borders. It allows businesses to access international markets more easily, promotes global marketing, and helps reduce the barriers to entry for companies wanting to expand abroad. The Internet enables firms to manage international operations, connect with suppliers and customers worldwide, and adapt their products or services to different markets, which drives the process of globalization. Analyzing the other options. Option A, controls on foreign exchange, limit the ability to convert and transfer currency across borders. These controls can hinder globalization by making it more difficult for businesses to engage in international trade and investment. Instead of encouraging globalization, they act as barriers to international financial transactions. Next, option B, immigration restrictions, which limit the movement of people between countries, can reduce the flow of talent, labor, and ideas across borders. While they may affect the mobility of workers, they are more likely to restrict globalization rather than encourage it. Lastly, option C, increasing tariffs. Tariffs are taxes on imports that make foreign goods more expensive. Increased tariffs discourage international trade by raising the costs of foreign products, which can hinder the flow of goods and services across borders. Tariffs are a protectionist measure and typically act as a barrier to globalization. Moving to the 10th question. What is a benefit of a multinational company, MNC, to the host country? A MNC may improve the reputation of its home country as a high-quality producer. B. Exports by a MNC may result in an improved trade balance for the host country. C. Production by a MNC may lead to higher levels of pollution in the host country. D. Profits made by a MNC are sent back to its home country. Reference, 2021 May-June version 3. The correct answer for this question is option B. Exports by a MNC may result in an improved trade balance for the host country. When a multinational company, MNC, operates in a host country, it may produce goods or services for export to other markets. This can lead to an increase in the host country's exports, which would improve its trade balance, the difference between the value of exports and imports. By expanding production capacity and tapping into international markets, MNCs can help the host country boost its exports and potentially reduce its trade deficit. Analyzing the other options. Option A. A MNC may improve the reputation of its home country as a high-quality producer. While this may be true for the home country of the MNC, it is not a direct benefit to the host country. The host country benefits more directly from the MNC's operations through factors like job creation, technology transfer, and economic growth, rather than the improvement of the home country's reputation. Next, option C, production by a MNC may lead to higher levels of pollution in the host country. Is a potential negative impact, not a benefit. MNCs may indeed contribute to environmental degradation if their operations are not properly regulated, resulting in pollution. However, this is not a benefit and can often be a concern for host countries when MNCs prioritize profit over environmental standards. Lastly, option D, profits made by a MNC are sent back to its home country, is typically a negative aspect from the perspective of the host country, as profits are repatriated to the home country rather than reinvested locally. While MNCs may generate jobs and economic activity in the host country, the repatriation of profits can limit the long-term economic benefits for the host nation. Moving to the 11th question. Which method of protection always reduces the supply of an imported good to zero? A. Embargo. B. Quota. C. Subsidy. D. Tariff. Reference, 2021 May-June version 1. The correct answer for this question is option A. Embargo. An embargo is a government-imposed restriction that completely halts trade with a specific country or on specific goods. This measure results in the supply of the affected imported good being reduced to zero, as no imports are allowed under an embargo. Analyzing the other options. Option B. Quota. A quota limits the quantity of a good that can be imported, but it does not eliminate imports entirely. As long as the quota is not fully exhausted, some quantity of the imported good will still be allowed into the country. Next, option C. Subsidy. A subsidy is a financial assistance provided by the government to domestic producers, which makes their goods cheaper and more competitive with imports. While subsidies may reduce the demand for imported goods, they do not eliminate imports completely. Lastly, option D. Tariff. A tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods, which raises their price and potentially reduces demand for them. However, it does not eliminate imports entirely, as imports can still occur, though at a higher price. Moving to the 12th question. What is the most likely benefit for a low-income economy if it removes tariffs on imported goods and services? A. More choice for domestic consumers. B. More employment in declining industries. C. More exports by domestic firms. D. More tax revenue from imports. Reference, 2021 May-June version 2. The correct answer for this question is option A. More choice for domestic consumers. When a low-income economy removes tariffs on imported goods and services, it makes foreign products more accessible to domestic consumers. With lower import prices, consumers can access a wider variety of goods and services at potentially lower prices, thus increasing their choices and improving their standard of living. This is the most likely immediate benefit for consumers in the economy. Analyzing the other options. Option B. More employment in declining industries. Removing tariffs usually increases competition in the domestic market. While this can make local industries more efficient, it also often harms industries that cannot compete with cheaper imports. Tariffs tend to protect declining industries, so removing them would likely not lead to more employment in these sectors. Next, option C. More exports by domestic firms. While removing tariffs might encourage other countries to reduce their tariffs, promoting reciprocal trade, it does not directly result in more exports. More exports by domestic firms typically require improvements in production efficiency, quality, or trade agreements, not just the removal of tariffs on imports. Lastly, option D. More tax revenue from imports. Tariffs are taxes on imports, so if a country removes tariffs, it will likely lose tax revenue from imported goods. This would reduce government income from imports rather than increase it. Moving to the 13th question. Economies have become increasingly linked through globalization. What would discourage this? A. Creation of a single world market. B. Direct foreign investment by multinational companies. C. Expansion of trade and financial services. D. Protectionist policies by trading groups. Reference, 2021 May-June version 2. The correct answer for this question is option D. Protectionist policies by trading groups. Such as tariffs, quotas, subsidies, and other trade barriers, are designed to limit imports and protect domestic industries from foreign competition. These policies discourage globalization because they restrict the free flow of goods, services, and capital across borders, thus reducing international trade and economic integration. Analyzing the other options. Option A, creation of a single world market, would promote globalization by reducing trade barriers between countries, fostering greater economic integration, and enabling more efficient global exchanges of goods, services, and capital. Next, option B, direct foreign investment by multinational companies, fosters globalization by encouraging the flow of capital, technology, and expertise across borders, leading to more interconnected economies. Lastly, option C, expansion of trade and financial services, facilitates the globalization of finance, enabling capital flows across borders and increasing the interconnectedness of global markets. Moving to the 14th question. Which method of trade protection would enable domestic firms to lower their prices and undercut the price of imported goods? A. A subsidy. B. A tariff. C. An embargo. D. An import quota. Reference, 2021 February-March version 2. The correct answer for this question is option A. A subsidy is a financial assistance provided by the government to domestic firms, which helps them lower their production costs. This enables domestic firms to reduce their prices, making their goods more competitive compared to imported goods. By lowering the prices of domestically produced goods, they can undercut the price of imported goods, even without the need for tariffs or quotas. Analyzing the other options. Option B, a tariff, is a tax on imported goods, which raises the price of imports, making them less competitive with domestic products. While tariffs protect domestic firms by making imports more expensive, they do not help domestic firms lower their own prices. Next, option C, an embargo, is a complete ban on trade with a particular country or on certain goods. It does not help domestic firms lower their prices, rather, it eliminates the competition entirely from the targeted imports, often leading to shortages or higher prices for consumers. Lastly, option D, an import quota, restricts the quantity of a good that can be imported. While it can reduce competition from foreign goods, it does not directly help domestic firms lower their prices. Domestic firms may raise prices due to the reduced competition, and consumers may face higher prices as a result. Moving to the 15th question. How might a multinational company, MNC, directly benefit a host country? A. It creates local employment. B. It depletes local natural resources. C. It imports raw materials. D. It receives tax concessions. Reference, 2021 February-March version 2. The correct answer for this question is option A. It creates local employment. A multinational company, MNC, can directly benefit a host country by creating local employment. MNCs often set up factories, offices, or service centers in the host country, which leads to job creation for local workers. These jobs can improve the standard of living and provide training and skill development, which can have long-term positive impacts on the economy. Analyzing the other options. Option B. It depletes local natural resources. While some MNCs, particularly in resource extraction industries, may exploit local natural resources, this is generally viewed as a negative impact. The depletion of resources can lead to environmental degradation and unsustainable practices that harm the long-term economic and ecological health of the host country. Next, option C. It imports raw materials. While MNCs may import raw materials for production, this does not directly benefit the host country. In fact, importing raw materials might reduce the potential for local industries to supply those materials, which could limit the host country's ability to develop its own resource-based industries. Lastly, option D. It receives tax concessions. While MNCs might receive tax breaks or concessions as part of an incentive package from the host country, this is typically a benefit for the MNC, not the host country. Tax concessions may result in lower government revenue, which could limit the host country's ability to invest in public services or infrastructure. Thank you for watching this video. I hope the explanations of past paper questions and the reasoning behind the correct answers helped clarify some key concepts. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Topical Economics for more insightful lessons and exam tips. Your support is truly appreciated, and it encourages me to keep creating valuable content to help you succeed. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments, and I'll be happy to assist. Thanks again for being a part of the Topical Economics community.